Commissioner Hill is absent with notice. Vice Chair Papp,
Here.
Chair Beamstiffer.
Here. Invocation flag salute, Commissioner Ochoa. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Awesome. Dear Lord, thank you for bringing us here tonight through this rain and keeping us all safe. And Lord, I just pray that you guide our decision making tonight, and we pray for our city and the well-being of our city and the people in it. In your name we pray, amen. Okay. Number 4, agenda item number 4 is public comment period for items not on the agenda. Are there any members of the public present that would like to comment on an item not on the agenda?
I don't have anyone present for an item not on the agenda, and I did not receive any e-comments.
Thank you. Moving on to agenda item number 5, approval of the minutes for the meeting of December 19th, 2023. Does the commission have any questions or concerns or corrections? May I ask for a motion?
I'll move to accept the planning commission meeting minutes from December 5th.
I'll second it.
I'm showing this. This one. This one. Yeah, we're good. And that passes. Agenda item 5B, approval of minutes of the meeting of January 16th, 2024. Does the commission have any comments or corrections?
Question first? I was not here for the meeting. I wasn't present, but I did observe from home and I watched it again later. Am I able to participate?
Yes.
Okay. I have a few corrections. Let's see, for item 7, public hearings would be the second paragraph. Wait, I'm sorry. Yes. Second paragraph under environmental. I believe the first sentence should read, a previously adopted categorical exemption was adopted in accordance with the California Environmental Quality Act. Second correction would be under item 8. Second paragraph where Commissioner Hill requested, I would suggest striking the word requested and just leaving everything else intact. Commissioner Hill inquired on the state's driving force. And then on the last page, item 9D, last line of that should read that the commissioners attend the League of California Cities training in March. And those would be the only corrections that I have.
Any other corrections? Can I ask for a motion with the corrections?
I move to accept the minutes of the January 16th meeting with those corrections.
I second. and that passes. Item 6A, extension of time 23-003 for Arco AMPM Gas Station and Commercial Center. Assistant Planner Jordan Walton.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission. My name is Jordan Walton, Assistant Planner with the Community Development Department. Tonight for your consideration is extension of time 23-3. The applicant is ANS Engineering and the property owner is Sater Oil International. The property is located on the northeast corner of Saboba Avenue and Florida Avenue. On January 18th, 2022, the Planning Commission approved CUP 21-7, Site Development Review 21-13, and Public Convenience and Necessity 21-13, and Tentative Parcel Map 21-13, 21-3 for the Arco AMPM gas station, car wash, and 2 restaurants with drive-through on a 3.32 acre parcel. Since then, the applicant has worked with engineering and the building department for the development of the site. But the applicant is requesting this 2-year time extension due to financial constraints, equipment supply delays, and vendor supply chain deficiencies. This project was, again, determined, had a CEQA determination at the January 18th, 2022 Planning Commission. The project was determined to be exempt from CEQA. It is respectfully asked that the Planning Commission approve extension of time 23-003. And planning staff did receive one comment of, planning staff did receive one comment of, from a property owner located on 4913 Merlin Inn that is just right across from the subject site. He asked that his response be read into the record. The property owner's name is Dan Burns. And as stated, he would like to state that, and I quote, "My home is on the corner of Merlin and Saboba Street, the old side. I'm 63 years old. Please only provide projects that may help my area get back to low crime and peace." And with that, concludes my presentation, and I'm available to take any comments. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Jordan. Does the commissioners have any questions for staff?
Quick question in regards to the 2-year extension request. Is that pretty standard, or is that the maximum allowed or maximum time period for an extension?
I believe that extension of time is, you can request a 1-year extension of time or a 2-year extension of time. I believe 2 years is the max.
Okay, so they don't necessarily need to take 2 years. I mean, they got their finances in order. They could go and start construction early.
That is correct.
Actually, do we have a car wash moratorium?
Yes, Commissioner Clark, that is correct. The car wash moratorium, only included those applications that were pending, preliminary applications or ones that, were not entitled. This one in particular was entitled, and it, was clarified, to the city council that any of the ones that were entitled, did have the benefit of continuing on with building permits.
And number 120, the site for fire flow, there is an exception for sprinklers because of the square footage.
So the conditions of approval, are as approved, by the planning commission. This was a requirement, and a condition identified by the fire department. Yes.
So they don't have to have sprinklers inside because of their square footage. As I read the number 120,
The fire sprinklers are not required for any of the proposed occupancies due to the square footage unless the occupancy load exceeds 100. We can certainly check with the fire department to clarify this condition. In most cases for new development, fire sprinklers are required. So we would have to clarify if this is applicable to today's Title 19 requirements.
it just seems to me like a gas station should have sprinklers regardless of its square footage. It certainly would help. And I wasn't part of the planning commission when this was approved, so that would have been something I would have objected to.
Questions?
I have a few questions slash comments. That's a very, Kathy, that's a very good segue into some of the comments I was going to make. I was looking at the conditions of approval very, very closely as well. And the first condition of approval states that the entitlement expired on January 18th, 2024. And this is part of the resolution that we're being asked to vote on tonight. So these conditions of approval have not been updated.
Yes, so commissioners, this evening, tonight is simply a request pursuant to our Hemet Municipal Code that allows for additional time upon request, an additional up to, and I just wanted to clarify, it's up to 3 years. This is something that has to come back to the Planning Commission to request the extension. It is not a review of the conditions of approval. It's not the procedures outlined in the municipal code do not identify procedures for reviewing the conditions of approval that were enacted at the time of the conditional use permit approval. However, if there are concerns with some of the conditions, we can certainly refer that to the applicant tonight, and we can discuss that. That if the commission feels that they would like some of the conditions to be perhaps augmented to include to ensure that the conditions are meeting today's development standards and building code standards, I believe that the commission can make those recommendations.
Okay, I have a list of some of the conditions that I had sent over to planning staff earlier today that I wanted to share with the commission some of my concerns. So number one, condition number one should be revised to include the date that it will in fact expire, not that it has already expired. Condition of approval number 5 refers to the currently adopted code that was in place at the time the entitlement was approved. But we don't know which version of the California Building Code that was. And I'm not sure about Hemet, but many cities in Riverside County have adopted the 2022 updates to the International Code Council, California Building Code, which has many new requirements that weren't in effect probably at the time this project was approved. So I'd like to, I'll be mentioning some of those, but I think it's important to note that rather than putting in a generic, the codes that were in place at the time of entitlement, that they should put in the code that is currently being used. And then perhaps augment that by stating, or a newer code that may have superseded that one. Condition number 38 is a building condition, which also discusses the code that was currently adopted. I think that should be revised. Condition of approval number 40 states that 5 sets of building plans should be submitted. I believe that's an old condition because the city now uses an electronic submittal process through the web-based portal. I believe that should be revised. Condition of approval number 74 discusses the trash enclosure must meet the city standard at the time, which was an R500B double. But unfortunately, the planning commission meeting that I missed, there was a presentation about revisions to I believe there were revisions to the refuse enclosures, and I wanted to ensure that this still meets the current city standard. Condition of approval number 81 stated that at the time of submittal, the applicant had not provided a title report to verify the boundaries of the project. And I'm curious if one has been submitted to date so that staff can in fact verify the boundaries of the project. And then I would just add in Commissioner Clark's comment regarding condition of approval number 20 and fire sprinklers. I believe because of the changes in the 2022 code, they will in fact be required to put in sprinklers. So with those modifications to the conditions, it's very possible that the design for the site layout of the project might need to be redesigned to include things that I did not see in there, which included, some of them might have been in there, but I noted down accessible path of travel from the sidewalks to the buildings, accessible path of travels from the buildings to the trash enclosures, and accessible paths of travel from the ADA parking stalls to the buildings. They're also going to be required to install electric vehicle ADA parking stalls and electric vehicle parking or charging stations throughout the site. If the applicant is amenable to amending those conditions, whether it be tonight or through the final approval of the project, then I'm in full support of the project.
Any other questions you may have for the staff? No?
I just wanted to comment. I did have a question about the electric, that being current.
If I recall right, that was something that they were planning on doing at some point, possibly adding electric. But I think that was something that was coming up with them to install, if I remember that project.
Yes, I don't recall, but it is a California Green, Code building requirement. So if the applicant is agreeable to the recommended conditions by the commission, then they would be required to.
And then just my only question is, because I know it's just more of just an extension of time, if they were to revise anything on the CUP, then would the car wash moratorium be put into effect in that case, if they tried to revise anything in the CUP?
If they were to modify the car wash, yes, that could change the decision of the planning commission or any consideration if they were to change the plan of the car wash. If they were to modify this conditional use permit, which that included the entire center, it included the gas station, car wash, and 2 drive-throughs, we could take a look at if they were to modify that in the future. Under the current request, there are no changes to the plan.
Okay. Any other questions before we open the public hearing? No? Thank you for your presentation. And with that, we're going to open up public hearing. Are there any members of the public present or online that would like to comment on this item? Ms. Hernandez?
Yes, Chair Beamster, I received 2 requests to speak forms. Mr. Jason Davis, would you like to come up and give your comment? And for the record, I do show someone online requesting to speak that we can call after these 2.
I'm Jason Davis. I reside at 4969 Merlin Street, which is, the car wash is 20 or 30 feet from my bedroom window. Has anybody done a noise assessment or noise pollution assessment of that? We're talking about an 8-foot block wall. That's a lot of noise. I can hear the car wash in the corner in my bedroom. So if that one is 30 feet from me, that's a little close. So I brought this up before when they tried to get it before. And now they've had 2 years to do something and they haven't done anything. So nobody's been taking care of the property, cutting the weeds down, or anything else. And we're kind of worried about, if that's the way it's going to go, what's going to give them 2 more years to be able to do anything? You know, kind of worried about having 2 drive-throughs for food in such a small area, including the gas station, you know? So we're talking a lot of smells and different stuff and grease traps, because they're going to have grease traps for those, you know, besides the venting for the fumes for the gas station also. So I don't know if this has all been looked at as far as environmentally wise and noise wise. Because if I can hear before they brought it up, well, the new ones are kind of quiet. I don't believe that. But they blow a lot of air. You go by any gas station, any car wash, and why do we need another car wash so close to one we already have? And we've got a gas station right down the street. I just don't think this particular plan is good for that corner. You know what I mean? So that's been my biggest problem with the whole thing. Before, somebody had a little strip mall, whatever, that was fine. You know, but now we're talking about a gas station with a lot of people, you know, a lot more traffic in the area, plus 2 fast food joints or restaurants. That's a lot of people, you know, so that was what I want to get out. I don't think they should get another 2 years to try and figure it out. They've had 2 years to figure it out. So they can't get the money now. What's going to make them get the money in 2 years? We have gas stations that went up right down the street at New Chicago. They didn't have any problem. They put it up quick. So, all right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Anderson, would you like to come up and speak?
Commissioners, thank you very much for the opportunity to speak on this topic. Having lived, my 2 neighbors have been there over 20 years. Myself, I'm approaching 40 years living in this same neighborhood in Hemet, and being a long time citizen. It is a noise problem. It is going to be a noise problem. With the previous commission, we explained this to them, but there was no listening. I mean, it was pretty much decided before this item came up on that it was going to be approved no matter what, with or without our reasonable viewpoints and reservations with this particular project. I do have a lot of problems. First off, is the traffic issue coming in off of Florida. The main access is going to be from the east. If you really want to be cognizant of this project, you need to take a look at traffic patterns coming out of Val Vista into East Hemet. You're talking about the speed limit's 50. Everybody's doing 60 to 65 when they hit that corner. The entrance to Merlin there, where this is going to be, immediately stopping with the lines that are going to be outside. Imagine coming in and out in that line at 55 miles an hour. That's the first problem, is traffic. The second, as my neighbor Jason explained, was the noise factor. You're not going to mitigate that with a noise wall, period. You know, we're going to have to listen to that car wash and everything else involved continuously all day long, and then fast food into the night. And then on top of that, dealing with the clientele for an AM PM mini mart and fast food. It's going to make our lives miserable. I'll tell you one thing, my wife has already told me, we're moving out. We will not be here when this happens. We've decided that this is a bridge too far for us. Also, I don't know if you've really thought about this too much, but everybody's demanding
electric charging stations. Interesting. Now, think about it. Putting an electric charging station for lithium batteries within a rock throwing distance of a gas station. Is that a wise idea? Have any of you seen a lithium fire before on YouTube? I encourage everybody on the planning commission to look up lithium fires and batteries. So therefore, the minimum would be that you would have to separate those by one being on one end of the lot and the other being on the other end. And nobody's ever talked about, that I know in California, has ever talked about mitigation for a lithium fire with all these charging stations that you're going up at Walmart, et cetera. I just find that really, a blind safety, blindness to safety when dealing with metal batteries, and it's charged towards environmental nonsense. I just feel that this project has been rushed through, and it's just a cookie cutter print from another city, trying to push that into East Hemet. What we should have been thinking about would have been small offices, doctors' offices, something with a lot less impact for the surrounding community and those of us that live there. This is a type of thing. I understand exactly where this is coming from. This is coming from a desire for revenue generation, high revenue generation. Where do we get our money from? One source: sales taxes and whatever Gavin Newsom decides to shovel down our way. If we're lucky, spoon feed us a little bit of money, and we have to do the best we can on sales tax. But this isn't the answer. This is not a good fit for the neighborhood. I appreciate your time, and I appreciate your listening to me complain. Thank you.
Thank you for your time. And public comment?
I do have a request to speak online. Ahmad Gaderi, you may speak.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman and members of the Planning Commission. Thank you for your time this afternoon. Hopefully you can hear me.
Yes, we can.
Okay, thank you. Our firm is the architectural consultant for this project. We're the applicant's representative. And as the staff indicated, just to give you a quick update as to what we've been working on for the past 2 years, is that number of items. Number one, as staff can confirm, we have submitted our plans for building plan check, and we're actually on probably cycle number 2 for the plan check, and also the civil drawings. We had submitted all those plans for plan check. 3 of the items that have delayed this project are a couple of things. Number one is the financing, of course, for the project that has been completed, and once we get our building permit, we can get started on construction. Number 2, you can check also the equipment, the switchgear, as you might have checked. You can check online. The switchgear, some of the vendors have taken for a long time. Actually, the switchgear on this side has taken 18 months to secure. So all those vendor supplied items are one of the reasons, other than financing, that has taken this project too long to build. And number 3, a couple of items that we have to discuss is, with Edison. On Soboba Avenue, as you know, there's overhead lines that we have to relocate as part of the street improvement. That also has taken a long time to be able to coordinate with Edison. So those are the main reasons why we haven't pulled our building permit to get started, but we're eager to get that permit issued and move forward with your help. If you don't mind, I'll address some of the comments the gentleman he brought up as far as the building code. We are building this building based on the current building code 2022. We are, the condition number 5, building code. Yes, we're building it. I'm designing it, have designed it based on the current code. Number 38, the same item. We have designed it. The current plans that the city is reviewing are based on the current building code. Number 40, as far as 5 sets of plans, the original set, since we started this project before the city went online, we had submitted 5 sets, but again, the resubmittal, we have no problem with complying with the online submittal. To be honest with you, that's actually better for us. It's easier, and it's a great process. Number 74, as far as the trash enclosure, we are going to be in compliance with the city's current standards, and that's not a problem. That's not going to change our site plan. Number 81, the title report, a copy of that was submitted as part of the project. I would be more than happy to supply another copy. And we usually supply that copy of the title report within the past 6 months. As far as the EV parking, yes, as the staff indicated, as part of the California Green Code, we are in not only, but the California Green Code just requires us to wire up or provide conduit for future EV. But our client is going to install EV at this location. Right now, the plan is to add 2 EVs that would cater to 4 cars, but we are possibly looking at expanding that to 4 EVs, actual installation that would provide services to 8 vehicles. In regard to the fire sprinklers, even back 2 years ago when we got the approval on this project, and currently any building less than 5,000 square feet does not require fire sprinklers. That's, again, it's just based on the fire code. We are not trying to, escape from putting the fire sprinklers. It's just basically we're following the fire code. And adding a fire sprinkler to this project would be a significant cost implications on this project. The other thing that I want to address, if you don't mind, is that the 2 gentlemen that spoke in regard to the noise and traffic. This project was reviewed by staff quite extensively. We did supply an acoustical report, and we supplied mitigations to comply with the city's noise ordinance. And staff had reviewed it, and we are in compliance with that requirement. As far as traffic, that was also reviewed by city traffic engineer, and the location of the driveways were approved by the city traffic engineer. And again, we're not making any changes in the plan. We want to get this project constructed as soon as possible. And if you have any questions, please let me know. I'll be more than happy to answer.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thanks, sir.
And with that, there are no other public comments or any e-comments, Ms. Hernandez?
I don't have any additional comments, no.
Okay. With that, we'll close the public hearing and ask for a motion from the commission for an extension of time. Discussion. Okay. Sure, go ahead.
I'm just curious, from all of us that are sitting up here this evening, having heard all the testimony, I personally haven't heard the testimony from the neighbors. I am sensitive to their concerns about noise. I do see that a block wall was added. I'm just curious to know if the commission feels that an 8-foot high block wall is sufficient barrier to give the neighbors some peace during the evening hours. I do believe there was a cutoff time for the car wash operations. Was it 7 p.m.? Is that correct?
Refer to the applicant on the hours of operation. I can take a look at the staff report just to verify. But yes, there is a cutoff on the hours
That
of
was 7 to
operation.
7.
I believe that was also part of the analysis. So I do want to mention to, if that's okay to the commission, that, is that okay if I?
Yes, absolutely.
Yes, we did analyze that. There was a noise study prepared for this. So in addition to that, in addition to the wing wall, there will be an 8-foot wall installed along the property boundary of the adjoining the residential properties.
I'm with you. I think I wasn't on the commission when this was brought down. I do feel that the property owners adjacent should have a voice. we're encroaching upon their living standards that they've been used to. And I do feel, quite honestly, sprinklers are a deal breaker for me. It's a gas station. So that's my view. I mean, I was not part of this. I probably would have insisted back then, but I agree.
Just want to be, letting you know that they checked off every box. They've completed every study. We've approved everything. We can't be moving the goalpost every time. This is, again, it's an extension of time, but I do recall the design of the car wash at the time, and they did put into the design of it, the way the noises traveled. And adding that wall would cut back, not completely. I mean, we can't completely cut back on that noise altogether. But adding that wall would reduce or damper some of the volume that comes from the exit part of the car wash, which is the closest to Saboba, I believe is where it was, location wise. But, I mean, we asked if they can redo the map and put the car wash somewhere else on the plot. And that was pretty much a hard no due to the gas station and where they wanted to put the drive-throughs. That's about where they could put the car wash and the whole design of things. And so that's why the project was approved based on the layout and the fact that they couldn't redraw out the map, correct? With the placement of the car wash, if I recall in that meeting. But that's why it's there. That's why they placed the car wash in that location.
What is a zoning code limit for the height of a perimeter wall? Because the property in question is a commercial zone, and it's adjacent to a residential zone. Is there anything in the code that allows for a taller wall when you have a use like this adjacent to a residential use?
The code has a maximum height of 6 feet for a residential boundary wall. So the increase was a concession as part of this development.
Same would apply to commercial. A 6-foot maximum is the typical height.
Typical height, however, 8 feet is usually the most appropriate when adjoining a commercial to residential. In addition to minimum building setbacks, landscape buffers, and also looking at the noise analysis to see if there's any additional way to mitigate any reduction in the noise levels. So we did analyze that when we looked at this, and it was in compliance with the city's standards.
One's a little tough for me personally because I understand both sides of the argument here. I agree with what Will said. It's unfair to the applicant to move the goalpost, but it's also unfair to the residents to impact their way of life. So this one's tough for me. Just gonna put it out there while I mull it over.
As some would say, eventually that field is going to be filled. And the fact that we mentioned traffic and the speed, whether it's a office space or a gas station, the speed limit is still the same. So we can't necessarily say, use the speed as a gas station can make it more dangerous than having it as an office spaces. So, and the way it's laid out as well, we got the island so they can only go in one way from Florida, and then on Saboba, they can go both ways. And so I don't, we have other areas where businesses are right off 45-mile-an-hour speed zone. People go 50, and we don't really hear too much issues with accidents in those areas off Florida Avenue. But I don't see the traffic being too much of an issue, although it depends on the fast food restaurant. Whatever goes there can create massive traffic. So that's my only concern is what fast food would be going in there, because it could be a Chick-fil-A and the place will just be a parking lot and be a mess. So that's my concern is the fast food portion of it. But as for car wash and gas station, now something has to fill that dirt field, and we have somebody that's coming forward willing to do that. And that's where I'm at on the project. Any other discussions?
Well, one last question for staff. You had mentioned that that there'd be another entitlement coming back to us related to this project. What would that be? And when?
There are no additional entitlements proposed at this time. I think there was a question from Chair Beamsturfer that if the question was that if they wanted to modify the plan, then would the car wash could that be reconsidered? And if we came back to, if the applicant wanted to modify the development as approved, it would come back to the planning commission as a modification to the previous approval. And those it could be an adjustment to the overall configuration or layout of the development. However, it would not void the approvals that were previously approved. It would be simply a request to modify. For example, you're going to have a development right now, currently on Sanderson and Stetson. There's a 7-Eleven gas station under construction right now, and that's approved for a gas station, car wash, and a drive-through. At the time when we originally approved it, there was a drive-through behind the 7-Eleven. How we do know now, a end user is looking at this property, and they will need to modify it slightly to reduce the footprint of the building and possibly the drive-through configuration. So that will come back to the Planning Commission to review the new design, but it does not necessarily take away the rights that have been benefited to the property development of the entire site.
So my sprinkler issue is pretty to the line. We are in a high earthquake zone, and anything volatile at a gas station and not having sprinklers, I'm sorry, that's public safety. And I don't agree with a gas station going forward with the amount of the close proximity. And if there is a drive-away, somebody that has his the gas and it's spilling over and so we have a fire, there has to be some insurance. And to me, a public space like that requires sprinklers. And I don't care what the square footage is.
You referring to sprinklers in the convenience store portion of it, or are you referring to sprinklers on the gas stations themselves?
Anywhere you have occupancy for public.
But I believe, doesn't the convenience store have sprinklers in the convenience store portion?
So as I understand
department
from,
regulations?
Hearing the applicant and going through the plan check process, they are required to comply with the current building and fire code. So the city is responsible for reviewing that. The Department of Life Safety division is reviewing that. So it will be required to comply with the code. I would not be able to cite what the codes are in terms of the whether or not it's required to be sprinklered based on the use. That would be a question that I would have to confer with our building official, fire marshal.
Okay, I just wanted more clarification, Commissioner Clark, because I would assume most new buildings being built, especially convenience stores or any business for that matter, would have fire sprinklers put into them as a fire standard. But I don't know if she was referring to just the convenience store itself, or she's referring to the actual station where cars go and park and pump gas. And that's why I just wanted more clarity on what she's asking.
It's number 120. Site fire flow, a fire flow of 1,500 GPM at 20 PSI residual pressure shall be available from hydrants within 400 feet from the furthest point of any building. Fire sprinklers are not required for any of the proposed occupancies due to the square footage unless the occupancy load exceeds 100. That's what the fire department, the conditions had been updated and applied to the proposed project.
With this being an extension of time, this is not a CUP or any changes of any permits. Which direction do we go if we want to know about this fire sprinkler issue?
I think in this case right now, the request is for an extension of an approved entitlement. The commission has valid questions and concerns. I believe that it would be it would be appropriate to ensure that the applicant, and it sounds like the applicant is comfortable with ensuring that the project is meeting today's building and fire codes. We could also come back to the commission with a response on, from the fire department or Department of Life Safety for training on, what the requirements are from the California Fire Code for construction. And that's an option for the commission because it may be a concern raised by the commission in future items.
I think that would be a good idea, at least because any information from departments like that would be very helpful. And again, we're here to approve the extension of time, and that's what this agenda is about, is the extension of time from an approved project. So we have to kind of focus on the extension of time and approve or not approve the 2 years that they're asking for. But we'd like to have the training as well from the fire aspect of it, and because maybe not every gas station has sprinklers for all we know, but I think it would be good to know some training on that.
I would like to add, if it is indeed possible for us to modify and or add conditions of approval, I would request that we add a condition of approval that upon construction of this 8-foot high wall, that the city go out and test the number of decibels on the residential side of that wall. And if it exceeds what's allowable for the residential zone, that additional noise attenuation be added to protect that property line.
And then also just wanted to hear from the applicant to ensure they are in agreement with the recommended conditions.
Do I need to open a public hearing again to hear from them? Is the applicant available?
Yes, sir, I'm here.
Okay, with that, I'm going to open a public hearing so the applicant can answer.
Yes, sir, but I just want to make sure the question is whether we're agreeable to add a condition that upon completion of the project, that an analysis be done to make sure that we're in compliance with the zoning code as relates to the noise element. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Yeah, we're fine. I mean, we did an acoustical study, and it clearly showed that we're going to be in compliance with the noise element of the city, and that's our requirement. We have to meet that requirement. If there's a condition to analyze it after it's built to make sure it's in compliance, we're agreeable. We believe that 8-foot high wall is more than mitigates any potential issues, which we don't anticipate any.
With that, maybe ask for a motion for the extension of time.
I'd like to ask for adopt planning commission resolution approving a 2-year extension of time for the conditional use permit 21-007 site development review 21-013 public conveyance of necessity 21-003 and tentative parcel map 21003 attachment number 1.
happy with it, the conditions of approval as they are written, or
with conditions of approval as requested by the commission.
clarification onto the conditions of approval? Can we get a motion on those conditions? Clarification on those conditions. I heard that, there would be a condition to require, at final inspection, an inspection and an analysis of the noise decibel rating, of the car wash, with the installation of the mitigations that were approved already. And now if the decibel rating does not pass the inspection at the time, that additional mitigation would be required. And in addition, the applicant is agreeable to compliance with the California Building Code and current California Fire Code.
That's correct.
That's correct.
Put that motion with the added noise study as well as being up to date with fire code. May we have a second for that?
I'll second that motion.
Three to one. Okay. Item B, site development review modification 23-003, Lennar Stable View, Associate Planner Soledad.
Good evening, Mr. Chair, Commissioners, staff, and members of the public. I will be presenting site development review modification 23-003 and model home complex 23-002. The owner is Kennedy Lewis Investment Management. The applicant is Lennar Homes of California. The location is Page Ranch Specific Plan. And this is on the southwest corner of Cove and Fisher Street. And these are 47 residential lots that we will be considering. The applicant is requesting to replot 47 of 145 home sites, changing to 3 single-story floor plans in Spanish, traditional, and cottage elevations, and a new model home complex consisting of 2 models in a parking lot. The replotting area will be marketed as Stable View, and all roadways, open spaces, street improvements shall all remain unchanged. And pursuant Section 90-48.9, modifications or revisions to approved site development review applications shall require submittal of a request to the director, and modifications to major site development reviews approved by the Planning Commission shall be reviewed by the Planning Commission. Here is an aerial view to show the location of the proposed replotting. This is Mustang, Fisher, Poplar, Warren, Cove, and this is the proposed area of the replotting. This view shows the general plan designation of low-density residential. This shows the zoning. The property and the area is in a specific plan. It's Page Ranch. And to give you a little background, tentative tract map 35393 is located south of Mustang between Warren and Fisher. It's 103.87 acres. It's 439 residential lots, and there's 3.5 acres of open space, paseos, and walking trails. Lennar purchased 72.4 acres with 294 residential lots on the west side of the map. And on February 16th, 2021, the Planning Commission approved a site development review and model home complex. And this approval consisted of 2 neighborhoods, Bridle Walk, which was single and two-story and is built out at this time, and Whispering Hills, which consisted of all single-story homes, and all but 43 have been built. Later, Lennar purchased the remaining 32 acres with 144 residential lots, which is on the east side of the map. And the Planning Commission approved a site development review and model home complex. And the community was named Colt Ridge and consisted of single and two-story homes. 32 homes have been built of the 145. This is a illustration of the tract map. The orange and the blue show the original submittal, and which is Bridle Walk and Whispering Hills. This is the single story, and this is a single and two-story area. And then subsequently Colt Ridge was approved, and it was for this entire 145 homes. Due to market demand and to help with affordability, the applicant reached out to staff and requested that lots 1 through 47 be replotted with single-story homes and for a new model home complex. The replatted area will be marketed as Stable View, and all roadways, open spaces, and street improvements shall remain unchanged. And there will be no replotting to the lots numbered 48 through 145. This map shows a location of Stable View, which is right here. These are the 47 lots that are being proposed for replotting. And then this is a proposed location of the model home complex. Stable View will only build single story, and there will be 3 floor plans. They are listed here. 1,200, 1,400, and 1,600 square feet. And each of the floor plans will be available in the Spanish traditional and cottage elevations. This is an illustration or a site plan of the model home complex showing the location of the model homes. This is Cove Street, this is Fisher, and this is parking lot and the 2 model homes. The Design Review Committee meeting met with the applicant on November 30th of last year. Building and safety had no issues or comments. Public Works did provide the standard right-of-way landscaping and irrigation requirements. And planning provided comments to the applicant regarding single-family design guidelines, which included the addition of a variation of frontage planes, architectural trim features, and elements, including veneer siding and usable front porches. The applicant revised the plans and added 1 or more of the following: stone and brick exterior wainscoting, vertical siding under the gable roofline, extended front elevations to create varied planes, and widen the porch area. Additionally, every replotted lot was checked to ensure that it met setbacks, height, and lot coverage requirements. There are no changes proposed to the findings. They will remain as they were for site development review 22-002 and for the model home complex for Colt Ridge. Condition number 30 was modified to require trap fencing to be pulled back from the right-of-way, and it shall not obstruct the sidewalk. The reason for this condition is to allow the sidewalk to remain unobstructed for passerbyers, including ADA accessibility. The general plan for this area is low-density residential, which allows for 2 to 5 dwelling units per acre. And the current zoning for Page Ranch for the map was approved with 5,000 square foot lots. And the lots here vary from 6,000 to 8,742 square feet, with the average being 6,633 square feet. They maintain the required width and depth. The CEQA for this complies because of a previously adopted subsequent environmental impact report and Mitigated Monitor and Reporting Program by the council on March 10, 2009 for the tentative track map. It is respectfully requested that the Planning Commission adopt Planning Commission Resolution 2024 with subsequent numbers to be determined, approving site development review modification 23-003 and model home complex 23-002 based on the findings and exhibits and subject to the attached conditions of approval. That concludes my presentation, and the applicant is also here to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, Associate Planner Soledad, for your presentation. Does this commission have any questions for staff about this project?
Well, Ed, thank you for your presentation. It's very thorough and I appreciate the time you put in that. I do have a couple of minor questions for you. With regard to the proposed setbacks, I noticed that some of the setbacks were less than 20 feet. I think some of them were maybe 17 or 18 feet. My recollection of the Page Ranch specific plan is that there's an average setback. Is that correct? So as long as, if some of them are less than 20 feet, then some have to be more than 20 feet, so they average out to 20 feet. Would that be a correct statement?
Well, what we did is we looked at the Page Ranch specific plan, and for the 5,000 square foot lots, it gave a minimum of 10 feet, and it gave an amount of 20 for garages. And then we looked at the municipal code, and for lots that were 5,000, 6,000, and 7,000 square feet, the setback was 18 feet.
Okay.
And and it also allowed for averaging.
That. And then I noticed in the elevations that none of the garages had any exterior windows or an exterior hinged door. They used to call them man doors, but we can't call them that anymore. And there's no windows in the roll-up doors. So I'm just curious how natural lighting gets into the garage, and with absent any natural lighting during daytime hours, that requires anybody who goes into a garage at any time of day or night to have to turn on a light. So I'm not certain that's compliant with Title 24 of the Green Code. So I'm just curious if the applicant would be amenable to installing windows in their garage doors.
To answer your question, we did check with the building official. He did not find anything that required that there be windows to the garage. And unless it was going to be occupied, like have occupancy for someone, like a conversion. And so he was not familiar with that requirement.
All right, thank you.
Any other questions for staff?
Traffic study?
Well, this is a
I
replotting.
understand. I understand. But you got to remember, I was not part of the planning commission when all of this came down. And so we also are bound to look at the infrastructure. And so these, I see that we had the original set and then we purchased the new land. Was a traffic study done when the new land was purchased and proposed for?
This map, I don't have the date of when it was approved, but it did undergo an environmental impact study. The environmental looks at things like traffic, noise, etc. And it had either mitigation measures like road widths or and exits and entrances to the community. And those were all certified and passed by the council and the planning commission at the time of the map.
Of the purchase of the new property.
At the time that the map was approved for subdivision, when the property was approved for subdivision.
Because Warren Road is a hellacious street And so I'm only concerned from a standpoint of not being part of the planning commission, the impact and the resolution that we're going to have for Mustang Way and Warren. Because we've got more homes down there that have no, exit other than going Fisher or,
Poplar.
yeah, so that was my concern, that, and I understand it's modification, but I'm asking for more for the city, the citizens, to have them understand that it was looked at. That's all.
Just a comment, it seems like we're making the houses a little bit smaller, which means we're probably going to be using fewer resources, probably fewer residents, so there's going to be fewer impacts. Would that be fair to say?
We didn't review the impacts, but they are based on affordability being changed to a smaller footprint, smaller homes.
Yeah, I'm just assuming if they're smaller, you're going to have smaller, fewer people driving, fewer impacts on the streets. And so if anything, I think it's a reduction in the impacts, my opinion.
We can have Jennifer to know if she can speak to that. She's here representing the applicant.
Hi, thank you for taking the time today. Track map 35393, as it was originally mapped, was for both communities, the original 294 that we purchased and the 145 that we purchased at the later date. So when that map was approved and we purchased the original portion, we did a lot of construction on Warren Road. We added in the traffic signal, we widened the road, and we completed development of Poplar. The fact that we purchased the properties in two separate divisions really didn't change the impacts that we were required to do when we purchased the first portion. So yes, this replotting is 100% based on our customer feedback. We're looking for more affordable housing. There's just a different buyer demographic that we're trying to reach out to. We do still have a lot of homes for sale in the Colt Ridge, which has the larger floor plans, and the, I think I want to call it the Next Gen, which has the in-home, has the like ensuite inside. And to your question in regards to garage windows, that's actually also a customer impact thing. We've gotten a lot of feedback that our residents don't like the fact that people can look inside their garages. So some of these things were engineered entirely for the reason of addressing our customers' concerns, our home buyers' concerns. This replotting, I mean, like I said, is to address all that.
Any other questions? Should I open that a public hearing? So let me open a public hearing, and I'm going to close the public hearing and back to staff questions. Any other questions for staff? Nope. All right. And with that, now we're going to open up the public hearing. Are there any members present that would like to comment on this item or on e-comments? Ms. Hernandez.
I did not receive any e-comments, and I don't show anyone online requesting to speak.
With that, we'll close the public hearing and ask for a motion.
I'll ask for a motion to go ahead and adopt the planning commission resolution subject to conditions and approval, exhibit 1A, approving site development review modifications 23-003 and model home complex 23-002.
I'll second the motion.
And that passes 4-0. Thank you for your presentation. All right, now moving on to item 7A, city attorney reports. City attorney Layla Sawari.
Nothing to report. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Item 7B, community development reports, Director Monique.
Thank you, Chair. I'd like to just report on a few actions from the January 30th, 2024 City Council meeting. At that meeting, the City Council approved the zoning code amendment for off-site construction. And it will go back to City Council for a second reading at the end of this month. The council also approved the trash enclosure upgrade ordinance, which will also go back for second reading at the end of this month. And the trash enclosure upgrade ordinance would result in all commercial and multifamily developments to comply with the current refuse standards by January 1st of 2026. And then additionally, the council also considered the hotel incentive investment program. And that was a very, it's a great program to incentivize and improve upon the economic stability of the community. And that is the end of my report. Thank you.
Thank you for the community development report, Director Monique. And moving on to 7C, future agenda items, Director Monique.
We have coming before you at the next Planning Commission meeting, we'll have the National Tube Supply Site Development Review and Lot Line Adjustment Development, and Palm Villas apartment villas coming to you on the February 20th, 2024 Planning Commission meeting.
And with that, we had a community engagement about the Palm Villas. So I imagine that information will be put in there after the engagement.
Oh, that's a good clarification. So just to clarify, the items that the Palm Villas that will be presented is only specific to the Planning Commission review of the apartment development. And we will, the other action items are based on a future potential grant program that is in progress. And those additional items that were discussed at the community engagement meeting to discuss potentially the roadway improvements, bike lanes on Menlo, and the Class 4 bike pedestrian pathway along the railroad corridor. Those items will come back at a future date.
Thank you. Item 7D, Planning Commissioner reports. Director Monique.
Commissioner Clark.
Yes. Been doing a little bit of investigating locally here for emergency response. And County Riverside is currently updating the Emergency Operation Plan, EOP. The public is invited to take the survey, and I highly recommend that we do this. I have myself, because this entity will provide us a revision of the 2023 EOP, being ready for earthquakes, fire, pandemic, flooding, and all of those things. So if we can, especially infrastructure and for whatever we need to know, I would highly suggest everybody take that survey.
You know the website of the survey?
Yes, it's on it's rivcoready.org. And it goes into your planning for disasters. They do earthquake, fire, electricity outage, pandemic, cyber attack, terrorist attack, and flooding, obviously flooding today. So, but we do need to, our citizens need to know that these are out there. And you can also sign up for the alert. They want to tell you something about some disaster, you can put your email in and your cell phone, and they will text you the information. And that's another community thing that just brings us all together. And that's my report.
Thank you. Commissioner Ochoa?
I attended the community engagement meeting last week at the library, and I thought it was very informative.
Vice Chair Pap?
I'd also like to report that I attended the community event last week at the library. My wife and I enjoyed that very much. Unfortunately, we had to leave towards the end. We had a minor family emergency, but I'm happy to report everything is okay now. And I also would like to mention that regarding the League of California Cities Planning Commissioners event, I'd be interested in attending, but I would really begrudge having to drive there every day with my Dodge Ram Hemi that gets about 10 miles to the gallon. So if I were to drive, I would probably only attend one day, but if there's an opportunity to stay there, then I would like to attend the entire event.
Hotel room last time. Was the hotel not included this time?
I didn't know, I was just asking.
No hotel room last time.
I know how budgets are, so
We
everything.
did last time, and so we just need to confirm those who are interested in attending, and we can make arrangements for the commission. Okay. Chair Beamstriffer?
The only thing just in these recent rains is obviously the road conditions we've been having. A lot of potholes have shown their faces around around Stetson and everywhere pretty much. One place in particular is I went down to eat breakfast at Sun Hills, and right there by Lyon and Chambers, there's still a huge issue with the drainage system out there. It seems like the water isn't going where it needs to go, and it's really flooding that area up in that corner. And it's starting to head into those townhomes that are right there. So it's just one thing that kind of caught my eye, as well as Stetson, that little portion that didn't get repaid next to the county area. That's just getting real torn up right now with this rain. There's a lot of big potholes there. Yeah, I just wanted to address that to possibly NOAA and that department to look into those areas and patch those areas up. Other than that, nothing else to report. And with there being no further business to discuss, this meeting is adjourned to the next Planning Commission meeting scheduled for February 20th, 2024 at 6 p.m.